challenges in your life. Today, we have asked them to share a few thoughts around business readiness and having a team that is ready as we all prepare for May 12 and beyond. So thank you, Andrew.
Thanks, Jeremy, and thank you for the opportunity to share some thoughts with you today. And I always say when I'm gathered with groups of people that I can't see today, but I trust that some of the things that I'm sharing will fall off your screen and land in your head and your heart and make a change and bring some certainly hope, light, encouragement, and maybe some thoughts around your business. In terms of business readiness, which is something that Lexi encouraged me to present today, I want to consider and present my thoughts mainly around your readiness and your team's readiness. There will be some practical things around the numbers here as well, but I want to talk mainly around the people part because as my dad always said to me, if you get the people part of your business right, everything else just flows. So I'll be aiming for the heart of yourself and the people as we share some thoughts this morning. So first picture up here is Jim Carrey in The Truman Show, and those of you who are a bit older like me might remember this film, and it was a great phrase that came through. What else is on when The Truman Show was on? The story was simply about a guy called Truman Burbank, who was born, raised, and lived his whole life inside a television studio. So we see glimpses during the movie of the real world where people are watching the show and reacting to Truman's life. Now, at the end of the movie, Truman actually breaks free of the show and he leaves. He sails a boat to the edge of the television studio, jumps off on the edge, and walks out to the cheers of the audience on the outside world. Then in the film's final moment, and this was the clanger for me, there were two guys who were sitting in a toll booth with a little small television watching The Truman Show, and they'd been watching it their whole life. And at the point when they witnessed Truman's life-changing moment where he escapes from this television studio, they turn to each other and ask the question, what else is on? Looking for something else to watch. And it's a funny and kind of spot-on commentary on life and how fickle we all are, because I consider, as we've been in this phase of lockdown, that in many ways, your customers and my customers are a bit like that. They're looking to us to see what's next, what else is on. And in some respects, it's a little bit like with our business. We don't know what readiness truly looks like. The curtain is about to go up on a part 2 of 2020, and it feels like we're backstage in the wings with that curtain about to go up. And so I suppose as far as readiness goes, it's asking yourself, what will your show or your business look like to your customers or to your patients? Are your cast ready? Are your team ready? Have you worked out the plot? Are there some intricacies around the plot that you maybe haven't thought through? How will it play out? And a lot of that comes down to your state and my state of readiness, readiness within ourselves and within our business as that curtain is about to rise. And for me, I really feel that this lockdown probably represents for many of us and as business owners, one of the greatest leadership challenges, but also one of the greatest opportunities of your professional life. So some considerations around that, and I'm going to start where I finish. And some of you know that I like to talk about movies a bit, and there is a film called On Any Given Sunday, and Al Pacino is playing a wiped out old drunken coach of a football team that is on its last legs, and they're going out to play a game, and he's giving them what I consider one of the best motivational speeches in a movie ever. And he says, that's about as much Al Pacino as I'll do for you this morning. He says, when you get old, things get taken from you. I mean, that's life, but you only learn that when you start losing stuff. You find out that life is a game of inches, and so is football, because in either game, life or football, the margin for error is so small. One step too late or too early and you don't quite make it, 1/2 second too slow or too fast and you don't quite catch it. The inches we need are everywhere around us. They're in every break of the game, every minute, every second. And, you know, thinking about that speech, it's really not the huge gains that you or I need right now. It's the inches. What are those small things that you can claw back right now and bring into your business, bring into the heart of your team that will make the difference between winning and losing? So we'll finish with that speech, and hopefully that'll leave you going out fired up with some thoughts on how to have your business ready. But the questions perhaps are things like, what do we need to do? And have you thought around your priorities? Are they written in your mind, or do you have something written on paper? And I think the key is to have some clear priorities. That is your challenge and your opportunity. And the question is, are we going to be responsive to the situation or reactive? When that curtain goes up, what does your stage look like? Are we a bit beaten up like this coach I spoke about, or are you ready to put on that show of your life? So a little bit around the numbers, and I think clearly for me, it's a time to be realistic, particularly realistic around your numbers. So I want to say, don't let the fear of what if stand in your way. I think it's clearly a time to rip the plaster off and pragmatically face worst case scenarios by digging into your numbers. And I know that for many of us, we have you might be having your head more around the clinical processes or looking after your patients, but I would encourage you to be very intimately involved with your numbers at this stage. Review your cash flow, any contingencies that need to be made there. Do you have any loans outstanding, any overheads that perhaps might be difficult to manage? And these may be, I hope, things that you may have already thought about too, but cost them now. Cost those things into your business now, not later, and be fully aware of your situation. Dig deep into those numbers, so explore them, understand them, and as I said, rip that Band-Aid off and expose the wound, not only to yourself, but maybe to your team members, so it's not a shock when you get back to normalized trading. So as I say, being realistic around the numbers. Visibility with your team, and certainly right now, your team are looking at you to see your leadership. So where possible, and in these scenarios like this, if you can communicate face-to-face via Zoom or Facebook or whatever medium you have, or FaceTime on your phones, or even, if possible, meeting in smaller groups. But I would say, don't hide in emails. Allow yourself the opportunity to be visibly seen from your team. In terms of the future that we're looking at and our readiness for the future, I don't believe that this is a time for long-term vision casting. Hey, we're here now in May, but by December we're going to be here. I think it's important for you and your team to keep the sound bites that you're sharing with your team relatively brief and clear. So with that in mind, it's letting them know that they're well supported by you, that you have a strategy, that you're communicating as change comes, and there is no need to predict everything. I think a lot of it, as I say, the inches that we can claw back, the things that we can gather now are important over the long-term gains that you may or may not imagine. So it's about reading what sort of state your team is in. Okay, after that brief break by our sponsor. Okay, so I think we concluded that slide there around visibility. No need to predict things, but to be able to read what state your team is in. Then there are decisions to be made, and I think, you know, in terms of what are you doing and where are you going, ask yourself, are you choosing a survival or a thrive strategy? And I trust it's looking to have a practice long term that's striving. But if you have to make difficult decisions, and particularly staff decisions, maybe some recommendations for me. And as I say, you know your business better than I do, but I'd encourage you to consider the whole team and the process that everyone's working through. Look at options, alternatives. For instance, are you able to reduce wages? It's something that many of my colleagues and friends have worked through. Looking at people's hours, maybe you could reduce hours, wages, encourage people to take annual leave before you take more drastic measures. And some businesses, I think, have taken quite drastic measures too early, and I think people will have to then come back on the decisions they've made. So really take a considered approach as you're looking particularly at your team, as I say, the most important part of your business, to ask those decisions. Then there's the practicality, and you're looking at some of these drawings. They're out of my new book, which is called Belief, the Great Exchange, and you can see I've put up a nice modern dental chair there. So again, that check-in with your customers. And it's interesting, I was speaking to my family lawyer the other day, and he said to me that he's particularly worried about his team and his clients, and he's been calling a lot of his clients and just checking in on them. No business agenda, just giving them a call and asking them how they're doing. And every single one of them has remarked at the end of that call, wow, I got a call from my lawyer and I really appreciated that. I know a lot of us would be going, wow, I got a call from my lawyer. What was that all about? But that opportunity to check in with your A's and B's. So if I consider the 80-20 rule, that 20% of your clients are probably providing you with 80% of your turnover, how difficult would it be for you and your team to give some of those top customers a call, just to be able to say, hey, we were thinking of you at this time? And I was prompted with this thought, with a story that Lexi actually shared with me, where she said she got a phone call from her favorite clothing store down in Newmarket, Repertoire, and they called her just to see how she was going. And Lexi said to me she was so impressed with this. She was talking to some of her friends, and they said, yeah, we got the same call too. So I think, it costs you nothing to call your clients and just check in and see how people are doing. And I think the advertising that you will receive from that over internet stuff and all the other strategies that we have, the personal touch always wins over that. So I'd really encourage getting in touch with your clients now as you're getting business ready. Then there's the surgery stuff, and I don't need to tell you about that. Clinical preparedness. Is there a clear safety message to your clients? And perhaps that is even worthy of promotion. And of course, your team. The jokes, the welfare, reassuring them that they're okay and that you're okay, and to create a warm spirit amongst the team as you check in with them leading up to the day when a degree of normality is back and operational. Then I have some factors in terms of the business readiness, ready for change. And I look at this picture that we've got in front of us of the coin, and success, I really feel, will be found in your ability to really talk through with your friends, with your loved ones, with your colleagues, how you're honestly feeling about this new normal. And part of that is shifting from a place of fear and anxiety to developing a clear path forward for our business and our personal lives. And like that coin, when you look at it, if you consider the coin, we often think of only the two sides. There's heads and there's tails. Heads we win and tails we lose. However, as you see in the picture, there's a third side to every coin, which is its edge. And the edge can represent your perspective and my perspective on how we respond to this situation. And that ultimately is what changes everything. If we go back to heads and tails, you know that in our lives there will be challenges, there will be wins, but there are times with a head that you can feel on top of everything. At the same time, with our tails, we can feel like everything is crashing down around us. So the edge of the coin is the place which exists between heads and tails, We can all live there. So living on the edge of the coin is the place of balance between the extremes of every situation. And I think, you know, that's an important takeaway from today. Don't live in the extremes. Don't live in the ultimate highs or the ultimate lows. Find that place that gives you the ability to propel yourself forward. And the edge of the coin enables us to roll forward after it's been flipped. And I don't know about you, but you might have felt that your life has been flipped, your business has been flipped. But I encourage you to find your edge and allow yourself to move forward. And that move forward will be based on how you bring clarity to yourself, clarity to your team, with what you can reasonably form in your mind. So 3 factors around bringing that clarity. And the first is effective leadership. And that's in place at hopefully all levels of your practice and your business team. Your practice might have excellent pay, might have excellent benefits, employee-friendly policies. But if you haven't appointed leaders in the right place in your team, the rest of the team won't be motivated to change. So make sure that as you're heading into being business ready, that you've got team members that can take on leadership roles. It might be around bookings or surgery processes or greeting clients or getting back to people. Make sure that you've got people with those leadership qualities that's effective, that can assist you in doing what you do well. Certainly making sure that your team are motivated to change, and change happens when people are sufficiently dissatisfied with the status quo. So I think we're probably being given a gift in that respect, that many of us are dissatisfied with the status quo at the moment. And you might find that you will have a team that are willing to make the effort and accept the risks involved in doing something new. With that in mind, I came across this clip. I have a friend that works at the parenting place in Green Lane, and this was a short clip around modeling a healthy, resilient approach to children and families at home. So you can watch this from 2 perspectives, but when it's finished, I want to just speak briefly around the team approach and how to model that approach. So let's just watch this for a moment.
Parents at home have been saying, if you can do some schoolwork, or the kid wants to do some schoolwork, great. But that's like about 5% of it. 95% of it is focused on their well-being and their happiness and their sense of well-being. So sums it up all really. What the research shows is the number one way we can support them is by modelling a healthy, resilient approach ourselves. So it means about keeping it together in front of the kids and framing it positively. Going, oh wow, isn't it a gift that we get this time to spend together, to really, we're always complaining we don't have enough time. Now we've got time to really be there and to be present, and we don't have to rush. It opens up a whole new element to our relationship. Another sort of tip I think that really helps to get through is, because you're in the house with the kid all the time, is have designated times for work and designated times for playing with the kids. Just makes life a whole lot less stressful if we're not constantly tugging on your apron strings going, now, what about now? Whereas if you've gone, no, look, I'm going to be doing this between 1 and 3, and I'm going to be working really solidly. And then so from 3 to 4, I will stop and I will play with you, and we'll do whatever you want. And he wants to build a hut, then it's just so much easier at 1:30 to be going, yep, we'll do that at 3 o'clock, buddy. Your well-being is literally in your brain. It is literally the foundation for all of your cognitive outcomes, like how brainy you are, how well you control your emotions, how much you can delay gratification. That brain is called the frontal cortex. It actually sits directly on top of this brain called the limbic system. You can sort of think of the brain has got 2 choices. It's either going to focus on survival, or it's going to focus on all that good learning stuff. And if our well-being isn't cared for, and we're worrying about our survival, and our heart is racing and we're panicking, then correspondingly that means the other good brain can't come online. I often explain them to people as being on I'm doing that with my hands, as being on a set of scales. The scales don't go both up and both down. So if you put your upper brains on this side of the scales, where you can control your emotions, plan for the future, higher intellect, all the good stuff is up here in frontal cortex. And the other half of your brain is based on survival. And it's like you need your well-being is your survival brain needs to be calm. Okay, you've got plenty of food, you feel safe, you've got roof over your head, you're around loved ones. All my needs are met. then I can engage this higher part of my brain. But if someone fires a gun behind me, then instantly fight or freeze takes over. And when someone fires a gun behind you, for a few seconds you don't know what your middle name is, because you can't access that part of your brain, because both aren't designed to be online at a time, one or the other. So well-being is about calming that survival brain and to allow all of that good stuff to come back online. So it's always crucial to our well-being. And at times like this, when things are so new and unpredictable, that really arouses that brainstem. So if we focus on well-being now, it's a really smart, astute thing to do, because that's counteracting that stress response system that's been activated with everybody.
So some great points there. And I think my takeaways from that are that 95% of your teams now is going to be on their well-being, their ability to feel good at work and working with you. So that modeling a healthy resilience in front of our team, part of that is using and encouraging dialogue in front of them, because you'll be at work moving forward, making the moment about work, but also caring for them in the downtimes, ensuring you can engage in some fun conversations, talk about them, and allow them to do the same for you. This is a reciprocal thing, so that you can create this good feeling. That the well-being part, I found it interesting that the brain will focus on survival, but if our well-being is taken care of, then the survival part of the brain won't come online. So we don't really want that survival part of the brain coming online at work. We want that well-being to be active. So that set of scales, like that speaker said, needs to be in control. So if the survival brain at work is saying, all is well, I've got my job, I've got job security, I'm being paid, I'm part of a great clinical team, we're doing good dentistry here, we're happy, there's that feeling. So well-being, I think in terms of your roles and my role as a business leader, is about calming that survival brain. So I trust that you drew something from that. And then the third point is having a practice culture that's accustomed to collaboration, because change demands that people work together, and we've been pushed into a situation where change will demand collaboration between willing and motivated parties. So I would encourage you to ask for that participation. Let them know that you need them as a team. People love being part of a rallying cry. You remember Simba in the Lion King, when he's raised up on Pride Rock and all the animals are roaring and going crazy, and scenes like that. Everybody shows up and shows up in exclamation marks when something important is happening. Your business is important. Let them know it's important to your team. Create that rallying cry and create a collaborative culture. So I'm going to briefly go through some clear points for communicating a new landscape and in terms of business readiness for your team. And again, I think this is being recorded so you can have the takeaways and all the notes. But number one, don't panic. I think put on your own mask first, and you can't lead a team when you're in panic mode. So allow the team to let them know that you're okay and that you're in control, that you're feeling good, that your well-being brain is being taken care of. Turning up face to face. And, it's interesting, again, in my new book that I've talked a little bit about the 4 types of personalities, and this is a drawing of them. And, one of those people in your team is probably going to be a playful type of personality. Another will be a bit more of a peaceful, relaxed, go with the flow type person. You may have someone that's exceptionally good with the details and can handle some of the systematic approaches. And then you might have someone who's got a more powerful personality, and they are particularly great at taking control of situations and moving and creating a shift in your practice for you. So make sure that you're working face to face and understanding the type of personalities that you work with, and allowing them to bring out the best in themselves and the best in you. Being realistic, with the challenges facing the business in this pandemic and post-pandemic, share information around how you're going to run the practice freely. Let everybody know what's going to be happening, because planning and information and we've seen that from our government, that on a daily basis, we're getting updates. And I think these things are the lifeblood of any organization. You cannot over communicate. So I would encourage you to be realistic with the challenges you're facing, but also to share information freely. Help people understand why change is necessary. And here's a good old-fashioned X-ray system. We'll say, thank goodness we're not using those anymore. But, you know, during times of change, get people ready, break the information down in terms of what is critical to operate effectively. How can we do it flexibly? How can we do it quickly? Help your team understand why we need to be going through these changes and what we're going to do about it together. Encouraging participation. Allow other people, as I said, there might be someone in your team that you don't have to do. I love delegating stuff. So give people the opportunity to rise to the occasion. Help them make informed decisions rather than just imposing your own. And this will increase your team's autonomy, and it'll empower them to do some of their best work. I remember a moment in my career where we'd lost a whole lot of agencies in the company I was working for in Australia, and we were about to walk into a supplier meeting, and we had to tell them the state of the company that we were in. I was with one of the product managers, Rebecca, and she looked at me and she said, Andrew, what are we going to say in this situation? And I looked at her and I said, I don't know what I'm going to say, Rebecca. What do you think we should say? And she said, I think we should say this. I said, okay, that sounds good. And we went in with that strategy. And I honestly, putting up my hand, did not know what to do, but Rebecca did. And she rang me years later and she said, Andrew, remember that time that we went into that meeting and we didn't know what to do and you gave me the opportunity to speak? I said, yeah. She said, that was one of the most empowering times in my life. So I again encourage you to give your team that opportunity to rise to the occasion, because you might find that even within your small dental team, you'll have somebody who's longing to help you out and to communicate. Got to remember that communication is a two-way process. You've got to talk to your team, but you've got to also listen to them, particularly those who are resistant to change. Keep your ear open to your team. And then, of course, it's important to get into the trenches and on a daily basis. And it may be that as we start back to work, that the appointment book may not be full. So there may be moments during the day where you can look at the way you do things. Get into the trenches with those frontline people and help them be better team members, but also help yourself by better understanding what are the day-to-day issues that are happening. I think, you know, it's about giving people that collaborative place to work where you can do things together and assign projects and work together. So many years ago, I used this model of this triangle of a business and balance. And as I consider going back to work, this is probably what your business and my business looks like. At the pinnacle of the business, at the very peak, we have our customers, our team, and our owners. That's you, you're the owners, the team, the practice team, and of course our customers are our patients. And they're coming into your business and they're looking for one of those things, an experience. And it can be a good experience or a bad experience. Of course, we hope that it will be a good experience, that everyone has a good experience. You as an owner want to run a healthy, profitable dental practice that's serving the community well and doing good dentistry. Your team want to work with a great boss and work with great clients and enjoy helping and serving others by providing people with a smile. And your clients want to come in and feel that they get treated fairly, treated well, and have the optimum clinical advice. Now, to build a business like this, we need to underlay it with a whole bunch of these things, fundamentals. And as you're looking at the next couple of weeks, or we might call them systems, I know in a dental practice, there are hundreds of systems that operate to provide that experience. systems for checking people in, sterilization systems, how to set up a tray, how to move someone from a reception area into the surgery, and at the end of the treatment, what happens? Hundreds and hundreds of systems, how to work the practice management software, etc. So those systems underlay the experience. But there's one more foundational piece, and this is why the majority of my presentation has been all around this, because as you can see, as you look at that triangle, the biggest and strongest part of your business is your ability as a team and as a practice owner to communicate. Now, if I was to draw on this, which I won't during this presentation, and say, what happens if cracks start developing in the communication? Well, the interesting thing with that is the systems fall into the cracks in the communication, and they don't work either. And the experience goes right out the window. So again, as you're looking ahead and as you're building your business and you're building your team, work on that base layer, that communication. It's your strongest foundation to support the systems that you probably already have, which will drive that ultimate experience for your clients. So looking at it again, we have a healthy team. We take out that word experience, and that is a business in balance. And when your business is in balance and you're operating well and you're communicating well, the systems are going well, that's when you can work on the fun stuff. And for me, I have a good story around that, around selling, because that's what you do and that's what I do. And this is probably my most favorite story of sales. And in this story, the customer had a totally different belief to the salesperson. But by the end of the encounter, the customer changed the salesperson's belief. And it was so much fun. I was with my good friend Gary, and we were on a road trip south of Auckland, and we found ourselves pulling off the road for a compulsory ice cream. As we know, it's a Kiwi thing. And this dairy, which was the Castle Dairy in Maramarua, some of you might remember, was famous for its ice creams. So we were looking forward to our ice cream, and we walked into the castle, and Gary leaned over the counter and he said to the owner, "Let's have an ice cream, please, mate." To which the owner responded, "Sure, will that be a single scoop?" Now here's where the business lesson and the life lesson and the fun stuff emerged. Gary leaned over the counter, he looked straight back in his eyes, and he said, "Mate, never offer me the single scoop. Always offer me the triple scoop." Now at this moment, the immediate thought crossed my mind, where honestly can you go from a single scoop? The answer's nowhere. And I don't want to talk about dentistry, but you know what your single scoops are, right? You know what the baseline offer is to a client, and you know what the optimum is. The single scoop is always going to be a single scoop. However, a triple scoop is always the best. And even if you don't want to buy a triple scoop, you always have the option of going where? Well, I can go back to a double scoop. But one thing's for sure, if you start with the triple scoop, you may go back to the double, but the customer will never take the single scoop because you started with the optimum offer. And as you build the fun stuff, and as your business is getting ready with communicating the why of why I should buy dentistry, always offer people the best. You know, that moment with Gary changed my thinking about sales over a simple ice cream. I realized everybody deserves the best. Even if somebody can't afford the best at that moment, maybe they don't want the best, but they all deserve to be asked if they'd like to consider owning the best or having the best. So everywhere I go now, I say to people, offer the triple scoop. And it's a simple story, but I really encourage you to be offering that triple scoop, not only to your team, but to your patients when they're coming in the door and to your clients. So as we are getting near the closing of this, just a couple of thoughts of personal encouragement for you and these check-ins with your team, because it's highly likely that as a group of friends or a business partnership or working with your colleagues, that you're going to find that the people that you're working with are not in exactly the same place as you are. In fact, it's highly likely that the people that you live with or are friends are not even feeling anywhere near what you might be feeling. So as a suggestion, as you check in with each other, one vital question might be to consider as you meet, to ask those people how they're feeling around you. It might be possible to converse with friends or colleagues and expect that they can, I don't think it's going to be, you're going to be able to expect to meet people in a 50-50 place of exchange. It might be likely that your practice receptionist or your chairside might be feeling quite depleted right now. So therefore, one of the keys to maybe getting through this is acknowledging how you're feeling. For instance, it may be that you might feel right now, today, that you're only operating at 10%. Could it be possible that somebody in your team who might be operating at 40% might be able to come to the table and help you right now? I really feel that this time, as we're getting business ready, is a time for a higher degree of transparency in our relationships, in our relative levels of how tired we feel. I encourage you to develop that way of communicating with your team, because if you're able to identify where each other is at, maybe feeling depleted, or one or another has more to offer, then you can step in and help each other. Maybe as simple as sharing that percentage that you're operating at with your kids, with your relationship, with your loved ones, with your colleagues. Take a moment to ask those who you care about how they're really at. Discover the gap between the relative depletion and somebody else's ability to resolve. And you might find that your catch-ups and your connections at work might become more favorable if people are being able to be honest. You see, I think, as I said at the start, it's about seeing that relative degree of improvement that you can bring. And as I said, I don't want you to leave this presentation thinking, wow, I've got to do a whole lot of huge things. It may be that the changes that you need to make are those small improvements that you can claw back and see those inches. Some of you have heard my story before, and I got married just under 2 years ago. Love of my life, Kylie. She's a great girl, fantastic wedding. We had an awesome day here in Auckland. We went on a honeymoon. We went down to Queenstown, an area that might need all of our support right now, and we had this great honeymoon. On the day before we were about to return home from the honeymoon, Kylie gave me a phone call in the car, and she said, Andrew, something's wrong. I think I'm dying. And I said, okay, darling, I'll be home in a moment. Anyway, what transpired is that Kylie experienced a subarachnoid hemorrhage and a stroke on her brain, and spent 3 weeks in hospital. She was actually choppered down to Dunedin Hospital, where we spent a week, and then we were flown up to Auckland and spent 2 weeks in Auckland Hospital. And I'm sure most of you know that to spend more than 1 or 2 days in hospital these days, something has to be pretty serious. So I knew that the time that we were there for was quite a long time. I'm pleased to tell you that she's okay and she's good, and we're enjoying life and everything's good. But I remember very clearly with that story, on the Thursday when I found out that my wife had had a brain bleed on our honeymoon, it was not a good day. And for some of you, when you found out about lockdown and your business being shut down, you might be thinking to yourself, this has not been a good day. This has not been a good 5 weeks. And so what I was able to do from that Thursday, when I heard the news of where we were at as a couple, was each day I was able to see relative degrees of improvement. And I think here's the takeaway for you and for me, that each day, as you communicate with your team, as you bring that effective leadership to your team, as you talk to your clients, as you look at your cash flow, as you do a lot of the practical things that I've suggested in this talk, you will see relative degrees of improvement where you'll be able to look back and go, hey, in May, it wasn't so flash, but here we are now in July, and I can see that we've stepped along a road. So it's about the inches we claw back. And as I said, I wanted to finish and show you this speech with Al Pacino talking. I just pre-warn you, he does drop a couple of swear words in there, but if you can let that go, I think the message is pretty clear. So let's just watch this together as we get close to finishing.
I don't know what to say, really. 3 minutes to the biggest battle of our professional lives. All comes down to today. Either we heal as a team, or we're going to crumble. Inch by inch, play by play, till we're finished. We're in hell right now, gentlemen. Believe me. And we can stay here, get the shit kicked out of us, or we can fight our way back into the light. We can climb out of hell. 1 inch at a time. Now, I can't do it for you. I'm too old. I look around, I see these young faces, and I think, I mean, I made every wrong choice a middle-aged man can make. I pissed away all my money, believe it or not. I chased off anyone who's ever loved me. And lately, I can't even stand the face I see in the mirror. You know, when you get old in life, things get taken from you. I mean, that's part of life. But you only learn that when you start losing stuff. You find out life's this game of inches. So is football. Because in either game, life or football, the margin for error is so small. I mean, 1/2 a step too late or too early, and you don't quite make it. 1/2 second too slow, too fast, you don't quite catch it. The inches we need are everywhere around us. They're in every break of the game, every minute, every second. On this team, we fight for that inch. On this team, we tear ourselves and everyone else around us to pieces for that inch. We claw with our fingernails for that inch. Because we know when we add up all those inches, that's gonna make the fucking difference between winning and losing. Between living and dying. I'll tell you this, in any fight, it's the guy who's willing to die who's gonna win that inch. And I know if I'm gonna have any life anymore, it's because I'm still willing to fight and die for that inch. Because that's what living is. There's 6 inches in front of your face. Now, I can't make you do it. You gotta look at the guy next to you. Look into his eyes. Now, I think you're gonna see a guy who will go that inch with you. You're gonna see a guy who will sacrifice himself for this team because he knows when it comes down to it, you're gonna do the same for him. That's a team, gentlemen. And either we heal now as a team, or we will die as individuals. That's football, guys. That's all it is. Now, what are you gonna do?
So if you haven't seen the movie, you might be asking yourself the question, how did they do in the game? Well, the good news is they won. And, you know, that's really what, you know, as I close out today, I want you to do. I want you to win, and I want you to have a winning team. And, you know, the encouragement that I draw from that speech is it's not about the big things. Life is never about that. What are the small things that you have around you? What are those inches that you can claw back? Because as he said, you can heal as a team or you can crumble as an individual. And right now is a time to gather that team around you and look at those inches. What are those inches that we have in terms of customer contact, doing things better in the practice, connecting with people that we need to do around us in our dental community? Who are those people that we can be around? So I trust that, as I said, some of that stuff is fallen off the wall and into your hearts today. A little bit of shameless promotion. I thought my new book has just come out. It's arriving in a shipment into my home tomorrow. So I will have a bundle available, and I thought that if anyone was interested in buying a bundle, I've specially priced it for Auckland Dental Association, so you can buy 2 hardback books for that special price there, which is quite a good deal, including postage. So you can look on my website, which is andrewhoggard.com, and the shop is there. But a sincere thanks from me, and I believe these are your CPD points for the talk. And if there are any comments or thoughts or anything that I may be able to help with, I'm here to be available.
That's great. Thank you very much, Andrew. Really informative talk, gives us a lot to think about, particularly for me. I know I've spent a lot of time over the last few weeks trying to work out how the practice is going to run under new guidelines and restrictions, and I've been passing that on to my staff, but I haven't really given that much thought to what questions they've got about how things will look for them over the next few months as well. So certainly something for me to do to discuss that with them. And I'd just also like to open up for questions. If anyone has a question at all for Andrew, please just type it into the chat box. If you go down to the bottom part of the screen and hit chat, you'll have the option to send me a message, and I can relay any questions to Andrew.
People can, if they want to, Jeremy, just get in touch with me via my website, and if there's anything personal that people want to just chat about or connect, more than happy. I have capacity at this time to, if I can bring some encouragement or help from my years in working in business, very happy to contribute too. So
great, thank you. I do just have a question there from Nash, who would like to ask, how do you motivate patients to take the optimum long-term solutions when they themselves are fearful for their own financial health?
Yeah, I mean, I think that is a really good question, and I always go back to discretionary income, and I used to think that we have so much money to spend, and clients, I remember when I was working in the dental industry that people were choosing to either spend their money with a dentist or with Harvey Norman or House of Travel. And so I do have a belief that people have a level of discretionary income available to them. So it comes back to our ability as individuals to be able to communicate the value and the proposition that you offer. So coming back to my triple scoop story, I would be saying, here's what I would do, here's what I would do for my mouth, for my children, for my family, and present that option. But I wouldn't start with a baseline offer. So I would take somebody to the best and allow them to make a considered decision about what they want to do. So don't be afraid to take people to the top level offer. I saw yesterday a family that looked like they couldn't even afford to be out and about driving in a beaten up old van at 7:30 in the morning, and the whole family was eating McDonald's. So, McDonald's is not cheap, but they've got money to spend on stuff. People have a level of discretionary income, but I think our role as business owners is to present the best always, always present the optimum and allow the client to decide backwards. Don't allow the client to come up through the levels. Take them to the top, and they can choose if they want to go back down. Would be my thoughts. Yeah.
Great, thank you. Also, a question from me. Certainly, with communicating with staff members over the last few weeks, it's been different to what we are used to. There's been a lot of group emails, some WhatsApp chats, which has been good in that we're sharing information, but it's also very different to what we're used to. I think you do lose something without having that in-person connection, which we're getting a little bit. I'm not at work every day, but some days I'll be in there with one or two other staff, but it's not the whole team together, which we could try something like this, like a Zoom discussion, which we haven't yet. But do you have any tips on how to make sure that everybody is contributing in this time when we can't necessarily all be there together?
Yeah, I would, you were saying that you've had some opportunities to speak one-on-one or work one-on-one with individuals in the team. I would use those personal times to, hey, how are you doing? What do you see about the future? How can you contribute to the team? And have those crucial, more direct conversations in the one-on-one situations. And then I would use the Zoom or the, whatever medium you have to be the more high level. You're sharing, hey, in the next week, we will be achieving this, communicating that more to the team. But I've been running a small group of people, and we're connecting and opening up and sharing how things are going in business on Zoom. First week, people were not very open and didn't want to say things. Week 2, the floodgates opened up and everyone really opened up. So I think regularity around these things. But I think if you wanting to encourage someone really personally, do it one-on-one, and then use the group as the more high level general encouragement.
That's great, thank you. Are there any more questions for Andrew? All right, well, I think we're all set. Thank you very much for that again, Andrew. That was great.